Selamat datang dan salam sejahtera. But the country belum sejahtera lagi. That's why we are here. We are here to express views we have about the country and what maybe we have to do about moving us forward. 18-year-olds are going to vote. And if we can influence all of them positively to build a country we love and care for and are patriotic to, I think we can move this country forward.
Firstly, we need to be realistic. Reform, the progressive agenda, is not around the corner. It's not only miles away. It's a marathon and beyond. We have to do it ourselves. We have to fight for our future, our children's future and rights. And we have to do it in whatever way we can. Small, big, or we deservedly lose our rights and our future. The bureaucracy. This is what holds back much of the country. The bureaucracy. At the end of the day, policy reform, policy change is a long process which has to run through the civil service. You know, the politicians come and go. They're looking at the next election. It's the civil service that breaks policy.
What happened on the 9th of May? I mean, for me, it was the beginnings of a democracy. And no one can take that away from the people of Malaysia, okay? We brought change. And not just that, we brought change peacefully through a very flawed ballot box. And we did it because we came out in huge numbers. That's our victory, actually. So we don't want to take anything away from the people for that. We need to have a recalibration. We need to have a serious conversation. And I also think that this government must set up, and it's not the first time I'm saying it, must set up a bipartisan committee relating to race relations. It is time we did that. And if the government doesn't do it, then we have to do it. Because we need to start having this conversation. We need to start changing our language. We need to start changing the way we speak about each other. And that is a good start. And I think to do that, we need everyone's involvement. Now, our education system currently is a crime upon our children. There's no two ways about that. In fact, we should be crying at what we're doing to the next generation. We need to change our language. We need to say that the language of racism is not welcome in this country anymore. This concluding chapter makes the case for a genuinely inclusive model of development in which all Malaysians count.
The Constitution being the only social contract there ever is and ever will be in this country. I think the Malays by nature are moderate because when you look at the history of the Malays from the time of the Malacca Empire till now, we've always been accommodating. We've absorbed civilizations that come to us as and when they present themselves. We do not push people away. And I think it's a matter of time before we see that Chinese education or Indian education is not a threat to the Malays. In as much as the Portuguese were not that much of a threat, Islam was not that much of a threat, neither was Hinduism or Buddhism before that. The Malays themselves have to realize that there are Malay Buddhists, there are Malay Hindus like there are in Bali, there are Malay Catholics like there are in the Philippines. And I think the minute that kind of awareness comes up, being a Malay is not going to be something which is unique. The Champa Empire in Vietnam was started by people from Nusantara, which means the people from North Borneo and Celebes. They sailed across to Vietnam, set up an empire that was there from the time that Jesus walked in Palestine, and it ended only in the 16th century. So that kind of awareness will make people more attuned to the fact that they are part of a universe. They're not part of a microcosm as they make it out to be. It would be very useful for the whole country if the rich people sponsored a copy of the Constitution for each citizen in this country to read to know their rights, to know what they are protected from, and how they can move about within the Malaysian environment.
So nation building, not that difficult. Because if you look at us as you and your spouse, couple, family, the formula has not changed. It's simply what I write about so much, just that we are all one family. We have to transcend the idea of citizenry to the idea of family, looking ourselves as a single body, that if you get pinched at one point, the whole body will suffer. So when there is an attack on minorities or groups like the Christians or the Chinese or any minority group, even like the LGBTs, we all must answer in unison and not allow each of these groups to answer singly. We have to work together. I've said this already. And we have to work in what I call a quiet strength. Okay? A quiet strength against racism and bigotry. We must send our own wakil rakyat, not wakil party. So we must find our own candidates so that we can actually influence directly from us. For the first time, I am calling for the formation of a coalition of independent candidates, because single candidate, independent, cannot wait. But 40 or 50 under civil society, we can do this. Malaysia, our family. Malaysia, our country, our fault, our responsibility. Malaysia, our future is our own destiny. Thank you.
In 2018, the charges that the Rakyat wants are lower cost of living, better employment opportunities, let me finish just the paragraph, and just generally better quality of life. Perhaps Barisan Nasional was not doing a great job, and that's why they were voted out. Well, rightly so, for us to reflect and recalibrate. Yet, do you feel you are getting any of the changes that you look forward?
Actually, what we have, the Constitution is a very well-written, thorough legal piece of work by jurists. And we are very lucky it's been written by learned judges from Britain. But unfortunately, somehow along the way, after May 13, we try to do away with the Constitution by focusing on neo-economic policy, which is more about race empowerment and race enrichment. Actually, under the Constitution, the Malay rulers in council is constitutionally has a responsibility to protect and safeguard minority rights. And sometimes I feel we need more civil movement. When politics fail, political parties or politicians cheated us, we need to make a move, and we make petitions for rulers in council to consider the rights of the minorities under the Constitution, to uphold the Constitution. Required strong leadership, good organization, stamina, resources, and passion commitment.
All of humanity are born with dignity, and that dignity is equal. The curse of race and religion being put in law has made us a society of us and them, when it could have easily been all of us. And what you profess is yours to treasure in your heart and be your guide. Education, education, education. Change our education system in our sekolah kebangsaan. Then you talk about, closing all other vernacular school. Federal government is to manage the country, to make our country prosperous for everybody, not just for one race and one faith. Do not rely on politicians to change the way we are now. The only way to change is through the movement of the rakyat. And the rakyat, I mean, as long you're Malaysians, doesn't matter whether you are whatever race. We are the one that must make the change. Maju is actually recruiting supporters, real Malaysians. You imagine if Maju has 100,000 or hopefully 1 million. You think government will ignore us? No. We are going to garner maju as the movement of the rakyat. You change our education, take away all this religious thing from school, teach them about maths and science. Then only maybe another 10 years we can have a right-minded Malaysian. Time for you to rise and claim your rights under our federal constitution.
Malay and Malaysia are two different. Malay was born in 1957, Malaysia in 1963. So we are the Malaysia. If you want to read what Malaysia is all about, read Malaysia Agreement 1963, because it's a contract, okay? Social contract with Malays and all doesn't exist. We are in Malaysia, and we were born in 1963. We're not born in 57, okay?
We can't depend on other people or institutions or whatever, government. We have to do it ourselves. I'm also worried that they're going to get rid of Chinese school, Tamil school, which I disagree with. But my point there in the discussion which is recorded, we do not have a clear education policy. And the policy changes all the time. And it didn't echo what I was saying, it changes to every minister.
So when we talk about Sarawak and Sabah all the time, you probably read in the newspaper online as well. Everybody is talking about the rise MSc in 3 for Sarawak and Sabah. And that is a fact, because when you talk about Sarawak and Sabah, we are looking at how Sarawak can be better. If we have what was in the Malaysian Agreement realized, instead of talking about Chinese, Malay, Ibans, the Bidayus and all this, because there's a bigger picture. We look at the whole state, Sarawak. And this, of course, when we look at Malaysia, maybe we can widen the whole thing and look at Malaysia, and that's where we can talk about dignity for Malaysia, instead of looking at one race or small things